Hey, Margie here. Today on the podcast, I'm going to talk about forgiveness. And most people don't realize that this is absolutely essential for our overall good health and our happiness. And so many of us are holding on to grudges we can't let go. But yet, what are we doing? We're just hurting ourselves. And forgiveness is something, as a physical therapist, integrative health coach, and happiness trainer, I have seen over the years really take people down. And what I noticed was that people's muscles, their necks, I was working a lot with TMJ, be in spasm. And even when we corrected what the problem was physically, it would still happen. And oftentimes it was because they were holding onto something. So today I'm going to talk about the importance of forgiveness and how it can help us and what we can do, some techniques that we can use. And it's the month of February, it's the month of love. And I really, in my heart of hearts, believe this information is so important and could just enhance everybody's life. So to start out with, there's actually with forgiveness, there's medical reasons. It's good medicine. Dr. Fred Luskin, who's the director of the Stanford University Forgiveness Project, tells us that failure to forgive, holding hatred in your heart, is one of the main risk factors in heart disease. And besides cardiovascular benefits, the act of forgiveness can improve cholesterol levels, improve sleep. It reduces the risk of heart attacks, lowers blood pressure and back pain, leads to better relationships, also improves mental health, and lowers the rate of mortality. So there's so many reasons why we should forgive. It's great for us. So why is it so hard for so many of us to forgive? Well, there's 5 main reasons. Number 1, we think that forgiveness means condoning the wrong behavior, which simply isn't true. Number 2, we think that forgiveness means that we have to let that person back into our lives again. Number 3, we think that feeling hatred for that person somehow gives us control, power, or strength. Number 4, we feel that if we forgive, we might get hurt again. And number 5, we want to punish the offender. I want to read you something that's so powerful. And it's written by Eva Kor, who was an Auschwitz survivor who publicly forgave the Nazis who killed her family, put Eva and her sister in a concentration camp, and also Eva and her twin sister were used as human guinea pigs for medical experiments. And here is what she said. I believe with every fiber of my being that every human being has the right to live without the pain of the past. For most people, there is a big obstacle to forgiveness because society expects revenge. We need to honor our victims, but I wonder if my dead loved ones would want me to live with pain and anger until the end of my life. I do it for myself. Forgiveness is really nothing more than an act of self-healing and self-empowerment. I call it miracle medicine. It's free, it works, and has no side effects. And I think this is so very important because people just want to punish their offenders and they think that that's going to help them. But the problem is it hurts you. Not forgiving is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. And I really credit forgiveness as saving my life in a sense. And I'll tell you my story in a minute. And you may have heard this before, but I'll just tell it quickly because I think it's powerful. And I think that forgiveness was so very important. So in my early 20s, I had gotten married, which should have been really one of the greatest days of my life. But it wasn't because 2 days later on my honeymoon, I found out that the person I had married had been seeing someone else our entire relationship. And today you would think, how is that ever possible? But in those days, we didn't have cell phones and we were living on other parts of the country. because he was doing an internship. And so after the wedding, I had moved down there and we tried counseling, but it just didn't work. So I left, ended up moving to Chicago. I'm from the East Coast. But the point here is that everybody said to me, oh, don't you want to kill him? Don't you hope things are awful for him? And the truth was, no, I didn't care. Let him have a good life. I wanted to move on in my life. And because of that act of forgiveness, I was able to very quickly just continue my life and trust people and move on. And when I moved to Chicago, I was so fortunate. These stories have a silver lining in that across the street from me lived Craig, who I met, which I never would have had this not have happened. And we've been married now for quite a while, and I have 3 wonderful children, and it just really ended up having a wonderful ending to the story, and I feel very grateful. But had I not forgiven and held on to that, I don't know that I would have been ready or trusting for another relationship. So really throughout my life, forgiveness has played a very important part. And I've seen this with my patients. I've seen neck pain, back pain, TMJ pain. When people hold on to things, it manifests as physically. So this piece is just so important. And as Martin Luther King says, forgiveness is not an occasional act, it's a constant attitude. And I know we can go through history and we can think of Nelson Mandela, and there's so many people who forgave when so many of us would have thought, how could they possibly do that? But you do it for yourself. You do it so you can move on. And there are a couple ways that you can forgive. Well, one thing that works quite well is a letter. You don't want to just say, oh, yes, I forgive. You want to experience it. You need to feel it. You need to go through the feelings, of course, because we can't just, whenever we just suppress things, they come back stronger. But there's a couple things we can do. One is just writing a letter, getting your feelings down on paper and forgiving the person in a letter. And the best part about this is you don't have to send it. You don't have to do anything with it. It's just a matter of writing the letter that helps you move on with this forgiveness process. And then there's another process that I love. When we bring compassion to the other person, when we look at it through their eyes, again, we don't have to condone what's happened, but it lightens it. It makes it easier for us to forgive. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to walk you through a forgiveness practice that I learned from Marcy Shimoff. And what I want you to do, if you're somewhere you can close your eyes and really listen and follow it, great. If not, you can still follow it, and another time do it when you're by yourself, and you can even spend more time doing it with your eyes closed. But just listen to the words, because I think it's so very helpful to bring this compassion piece. So if you can, close your eyes and think of someone you are holding anger, hatred, or resentment toward in your heart. And just take a couple of breaths and let yourself feel your feelings without having to do anything about them. Just notice them. Now, realize that the person's hurtful action can't be changed. It's in the past, and there's absolutely nothing that can be done to affect it now. Feel the finality of that. Also realize that this person may never change. They are the way they are. And take a few deep breaths as you accept the truth of this. Now, see that the person is the way they are and did whatever they did because they have some pain, some lack, some woundedness. They may not even realize it themselves, but it's there. People only hurt others because they are hurt themselves. See them through the eyes of compassion for their own suffering. Imagine they're a child that is hurting, lashing out at others in their own pain. Can you feel compassion for them? Sit quietly for a minute or two more and just feel that. Just feel the expansion that compassion really in any amount brings to the heart. And it's okay if you still feel angry. The purpose of this exercise is to begin to release the pain in your heart, not to excuse anyone for their actions. So my suggestion is to keep repeating this exercise until you feel a shift, however small, in your heart. And your forgiveness will grow as you feel more compassion. So I wanted to talk about this today because I've seen this for over 35 years in my practice, that when people are holding onto things, holding onto grudges, that they're just not able to have the vibrant health and happiness that we all deserve. Dr. Fred Luskin, in his book, Forgive for Good, talks about one of his patients, Dana. And she thought what was done to her, the wrong, was so horrible that she could not forgive. And he said, Dana, what would you do if I had a gun at your head? And I said, the only way I wasn't going to shoot this gun is if you were to forgive. Would you? And she said, well, of course, if you present it that way. But then she thought about it. And by not forgiving, she was slowly killing herself. So none of us have guns at our head. But how are we destroying our life? How are we not allowing ourselves to live the wonderful life that we all deserve by not forgiving? So that's why I talked about this today. And I decided it was important enough. It's the month of February, the month of love, to bring this up because we want to have as much love as we can in our heart and as much joy in our life. And so on that note, if happiness is something that you do want to get more of, you would like to wake up happier tomorrow than you are today, I do invite you to my next live happiness class, which is in April. It's starting April 6th. And I will have all the details, just the link that you can learn more in the show notes, or you could just go to tinyurl.com/myhappylife, and you can learn about this. But anyway, goodbye, everybody. Enjoy your day. And life is just so precious that we have to enjoy every moment. And on that note, thanks for listening. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.